Welcome everyone, this is the Hipster Snek, and welcome again to another bit of N-D-X-Cellence. This time, I'm extremely pleased to introduce the indie title developed by Sirhaian, which I'm pretty sure is how you say that screen name, When the Darkness Comes, which launched in early 2019 on Steam. Summarizing this game in just a nutshell is to deliver unto it the most grievous of disservices. Originally, I was even planning on including this game in the Halloween-themed October lineup of reviews, but I don't think that's right either. Sure, this game does have dark themes, as the title implies, but that's not the focus. We're here today to analyze exactly why that is, so let's take it from the top. To begin with, the game looks great. You might suspect a game like this to be cloaked in darkness the entire way through, but that simply isn't true, though shady spots are certainly included. Instead, the game uses stark contrast between a glowing white light and the darkness just beyond view to keep the player always on the right path. Strong color contrasts pepper this game's design and give the player the right messages when they need them. They're strange, otherworldly, red-eyed, glitch-faced people staring directly at the player in a moment that, even with all the runs of the game later, still make my hipster hair stand on end. These, doubled with omnipresent, red-glowing cameras, always feeding information somewhere beyond our knowing. The game also uses color theming in other ways, such as calming blues that cover a few levels, and an enigmatic, glitch-faced, blue-eyed woman who serves as our guide, beckoning the player ever forward. This leads into the game's sound design. While mostly minimalist, you'll always be aware of some kind of accompanying instrumentation, though usually as a tense hum to make sure you're in the right state of mind. However, the main attraction is an original piano piece, Mars Landscape Moon Set by Julie Maxwell. You'll hear this in places or near items that have an association with the Blue Woman, my name for her, not the game's, and when you're near certain other set pieces. The sound effects are great. Soft and subdued footsteps punctuate the game's pacing, and a sudden whooshing sound of gigantic set pieces falling into place causing an exhilarating change of pace as the game's plot reaches its crescendo. Everything about this game's presentation, from the subtle changes in its audio volume to even a deadpan delivery from the game's dev himself in the opening chapter of the game, are spot on and illustrate this experience perfectly. Gameplay-wise, yeah, this might be called a walking simulator, but I don't want you to confuse that with the trivial walking sims that predate it. I feel this might be the first time that a walking simulator is so much more than that, often called an experience in its promotional materials rather than a game, which I feel is a fair assessment. The entire game is about you delving ever deeper, following a shining white light amidst a world of judgmental, red-eyed people who are not shy about voicing their disdain for you, and a world growing ever more chaotic and frantic about commanding your attention, with a red-eyed man demanding you give up and accept the darkness, and another where the blue-eyed woman tries to keep you on the path of the light. Not to say that challenges and changes in gameplay don't rear their heads. For example, one area opens up into a treasure hunt across a school campus, where you collect 8 clocks, or another where you have to scale a narrow path, but you can only see the sides of it. And just as any horror or unnerving experience would greatly be reduced in efficacy if repeated, these segments are forgiving, as in the latter example, if you were to fall off, you can actually get back onto the path if you react quickly to get back. The game design reflects a thoughtful progression, each segment showing elements and aspects of severe depression and the battles within it, which at its core is the game's major overarching theme. Find the light. Choose to find it, even when it's just one small light in an ocean of darkness. And this is where the game, no pun intended, really shines. To help illustrate, you can complete a singular run of the game in just an hour's time. When I first played the game, the very next day after it debuted on Steam, if you must know, I played through it and found my own light. And I was shown a very satisfying The End room, which I thought meant that was, the end. Oh ho, how wrong I was. Much like how the game jokingly gives you the "you win" achievement as soon as you start playing the game, there's much more going on. Imagine my surprise when I noticed on my desktop was suddenly a new picture file challenging me in the game's iconic red-white text, issuing me the challenge to look deeper. So I went back. In subsequent runs, the game altered each level, showing me more than it had last time, and the persistent, dark, red-eyed man becoming more and more demanding, taunting me to give in if even for a second. But I would not be broken. This is really excellent moment in game storytelling, and it's begging to be discussed. I have read numerous accounts of what people think the game's main conflict is, some interpreting it as a all-in-his-head kind of experience, with everything being something that's internalized. Some view it as a man's struggle against an uncaring world, with a blue-eyed lady being a significant other or family member begging them to hold on. Some even interpreting this as a soldier's PTSD after being in a wartime environment. My views on this changed as I played. In my first run, it started off as me versus a cheeky game dev who insisted on taunting me in the early levels. But when he faded out, the red-eyed man became a satanic analogy, my personal adversary. By the second run, I got the impression he had actively become my enemy in a completely different fashion, enemy within becoming enemy without, who had actually imprisoned the blue-eyed woman who had become my damsel in distress. This underscored by one of the most deliciously frustrating moments in all of my gaming history, when I was locked in a room with the blue-eyed woman, a red button just out of arm's reach, and the inability to move. All the while, she just begged me to say something to her, to press the button if I needed her, and yet being rendered paralyzed by the game as the floor in the room fell away platform by segmented platform. Calling this agonizing is an understatement. There was literally nothing in this universe I wanted more than to reach out to her. I wanted to save her, and all the while she was trying to save me. This is proof, to me at least, that games really are art. This moment in the game doesn't last for more than 3 minutes, but I can easily list it in my top 10 moments in game design. And the game is robust and plays with meta elements. Apart from that photo that appeared on my desktop, the red-eyed man taunted me with a folder in my documents, telling me to not play the game again and not to trust her. Naturally, that means I play it again. And before I go any further, you people on Steam seriously need to relax. Games on Steam aren't able to upload malware or haunt your computer, so stop being such babies. Anyway, I played the game, exploring every nook and cranny I could. I played through it all over again for this review, checking for even more. I wasn't satisfied with that. I actually reached out to Sirhaian, and in a very fortunate first for this channel, I got an answer. What follows is an abridged and spoiler-free iteration of a Q&A session that then ensued. I asked, what inspired the game? Did you have a personal brush with depression, or know someone who did? Sirhaian responded, I had a very hard time at some point in my life, where I would almost never go out and would spend weeks inside of my apartment alone. I also suffer from imposter syndrome, like many artists I know, and have low self-esteem. I wanted to try and convey how I felt in my dark times, while learning new stuff about game design and programming. I'm also a big fan of games like The Stanley Parable or Doki Doki Literature Club, which play around with meta mechanics and thematics. I asked, in my run of the game, I noticed several dichotomies at play. Game dev versus player during the comedic intro bits, red versus blue, intense versus serene, dark versus light. Was that design intentional or an offshoot of a different concept? He responds, it was entirely intentional. I love duality in anything, but especially in art. However, I like to let people decide what they think the story is by themselves. I read many very interesting interpretations that I had not thought about, but that all make sense too. Lastly, I ask, you pepper a lot of comedy in the game, which I feel serves it well. What gave you the idea to lighten the mood at some points? Just curious. He responds, I'm terrified of horror stuff and just had to lighten the mood from time to time. And as I said above, I love duality. I thought adding a few touches of humor would help deepen the atmosphere a bit more, and add some interest to the game. If everything is constantly dark and obscure, then nothing really is. But if you have some touches of light, the dark passages look even darker. And so, as not to bog down this review with a news interview segment, let's boil it all down. At the end of the day, what kind of game is When the Darkness Comes? It's a beautiful, amazing, artistic, and very visually distinctive experience. I've never played a game like it before. While I've played beautiful and moving games before, I'm just not sure I played a game that demanded so much of me emotionally as this game did. It made me laugh, it made me gasp and jump back, it made me think about life and the living. I can safely say not many games make me do that last one. This game is earnest and direct with its themes. Find your light, choose to live, fight against the darkness. Do not go gentle into that good night. There's help. But for all the platitudes I can spout, the game dev himself put it best. Quote, if there's anything I'd like to say, it's this. Even if you can't see the light, it is still there, somewhere. Maybe hidden in the clouds or away for the night. But if you persevere and keep going, you will find it. Just keep going. Ask for help. It isn't easy, I know. In fact, it's incredibly difficult, but it greatly helps." End quote. And to top all of this amazing design into perspective, the game is 100% free on Steam. You can download it right now, for free, and you should. Even if you've never had to deal with depression before, and especially if you have, it's worth it. Even with multiple playthroughs to find every last secret, you simply owe it to yourself to play when the darkness comes. And since we don't have a means of throwing all our money at Sirhaian, since the game is free and has no DLC, the story does have a happy ending in that respect as well. He appears to be gainfully employed in the games industry and has confirmed to me to be on the road to recovery from his bouts with depression. That, ladies and gentlemen, is choosing to follow the light. This has been the Hipster Snek. If you liked what you saw, click the like button down below and maybe tell your friends about it. If you want more content like this in the future, hit that subscribe and bell icon too. Leave a comment telling me what you thought it all meant. Download link on Steam Store will be provided in the description. Join us here in the future for more obscure reviews and N-D-X-Cellence, and I hope each and every one of you follows your own light, wherever that takes you. Choose to live. Thank you.